Check out this video.
You can be good at any game if you understand the rules and how to play the game.
The industry, man, it's not the same. Doesn't have to do with talent. It's about playing the game.
Why don't you join the team, man?
Team? Man, I'm not playing any games.
The environment that we're embedded in puts us in a situation where we feel we have to maneuver and play the game and water our message down.
I try to be my best to do it for y'all and give y'all a righteous game. Some of y'all gonna get it, and I know some of y'all want to change, but the environment don't allow you. You just don't have the finances to really move outside of the poverty and the conditions that we boxed the f into.
It's your uncle, Sam, and this is the great American game.
My Gemini twin back powering up. No more handshakes and hugs. The energy only circulate through us. Everybody must be judged. But this time, God only favoring us.
This is the great American game. This is where the game begins, in the box. You break out of the box when you learn from those who've escaped. You learn how to play the game from those who know the game well and then try to give that game to you. Because game, righteous game, is meant to be shared.
I give you the game, go back to the turf and give it right back.
You see how they want to enter diversity, but they lose their mind when it's all black?
The culture and just being black, I can't help that, man. It's just not something that I think about or even try to like go. I'm black. I'm at a point in my life I can't necessarily fake the funk for nothing. I have to be who I am authentically, and if the world can't accept that, then so be it. I'm gonna go put it all the way out there. Whether it's in private or whether it's on the main stage.
Let me explain to you something about economics in America. That's what we tend to do.
There are no major white characters in your books.
No. What is interesting to me is what is going on within the community. And within the community, there are no major white players.
The Billboard Hot 100 started in 1958, adding the pressure of charting to the music game. And the first black artist to reach that pinnacle was Tommy Edwards, who went #1 with his R&B record, It's All in the Game, which was about the sometimes heartbreaking game of love. And he held that position on the chart for about 6 weeks, which is some proof that we've been talking about the game in a lot of different ways for generations.
Once in a while he won't call, but it's all in the game.
Fast forward to 2025, Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar, which held the #1 spot for 22 weeks. And in that song, he offers to put the listener on game, making a direct connection between the exploitation of black labor in American history and the exploitation of black artist labor in the music game. Once upon a time, all of us was in chains. Homie still doubled down calling us some slaves.
Always rapping like you about to get the slaves free.
Atlanta was the mecca building railroads and trains. Bear with me for a minute, let me put y'all on game.
The railroads made Atlanta. The railroads were just as important to Atlanta back in those days as the airports are today.
Before Atlanta was called Atlanta, it was known as Terminus because it was on the spot where the new Western and Atlantic Railroad ended.
The white man was using town supposed to make a richer. Fast forward 2024, you got the same agenda. You run to Atlanta when you need a check balance. Let me break it down for you. This the real
African-American rappers saying N-word this and N-word that, but a Caucasian can't.
So say it.
Say what?
Say the word you want to say.
I'm not saying that I want to say it. I'm just saying that I can't.
Sure you can. Say it. Say it right now. I will say it with you.
Okay.
The black history lesson at the end of Not Like Us was overlooked by most, but it's at the end of the song for a reason. It captures exactly why this is deeper than the music.
Let me get back to that for the record.
Tommy Edwards sang of the game of love, but there's also the American game of life, the rap game, the street game.
The street game is a game. Majority of the people lose.
All in the game, yo. All in the game.
Old heads will remind you that Michael Jordan had a for the love of the game clause in his NBA contract that freed him to play the game he loved whenever he wanted. We even say phrases like game recognized game like we see in this example.
Basketball and hip hop, right? It's like they're married. Is there someone on the court that he reminds you of?
Yeah, it was me.
You can't ask that.
It's the same hunger. Look, like, you step out there on the court, we're taking heads off. There's no, I don't want to hear it. Like, I don't want to hear Michael's the best player in the world. I want to hear they call him Black Jesus. I don't want to hear that. You gonna have to show me.
All right, let me just skip that.
In the game, the rule is always look beyond what you see. And everything about the game, no matter which one you're forced to play, requires strategy and diligence. Every great American game involves deception, and it's rarely, if ever, played fairly. And at this point in American history, with all that we face, I think so many of us are tired of playing the long game.
Racism doesn't go away based on one vote or one administration. The way you make progress is by making things better a little bit at a time, and then over time, those little differences become big differences.
I was born here almost 60 years ago. I'm not going to live another 60 years. You always told me it takes time. It has taken my father's time, my mother's time, my uncle's time, my brother's and my sister's time, my nieces and my nephew's time. How much time do you want for your progress?
Does your writing have a political point of view?
The truth I happen to be most interested in has to do with the nature of oppression and how people survive it or don't. It's amazing to me, particularly for African Americans, just amazing that we're not all dead. That's a constant shocker.
When Kendrick Lamar said,
"The revolution about to be televised, you picked the right time, but the wrong guy."
That is a revised version of a quote by poet, musician, and activist Gil Scott-Heron, which came out in 1971.
The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, not be televised.
What that was all about, the revolution will not be televised. That was about the fact that the first change that takes place is in your mind.
So why did Kendrick say the revolution will be televised? Gil Scott-Heron released his song in 1971 when having a television was a luxury. This was 10 years before the internet was invented and 30 years before social media. And while the heart of his message remains true, that revolution isn't about what you watch. It's about being transformed by the renewing of your mind. It's about what happens inside of you. We still witness people in 2025 because of the internet and because of social media, advocate, share, and act who have gone through that transformation, who are doing that internal work, who televise that transformation in hopes of changing or impacting others. And that's what this whole moment was from beginning to end. It was a hip-hop revolution.
It's another thing. When you talk about a revolution, most people think violence without realizing that the real content of any kind of revolutionary thrust lies in the principles and the goals that you're striving for, not in the way you reach them.
Gil Scott-Heron is considered by many to be a godfather of modern hip-hop music. His poetry laid over soulful production, words said with message and intention, helped to guide a new group of young poets and messengers into the global movement we now know as hip-hop.
Gil, with so much emphasis now, it seems, on spoken word music, with hip-hop and rap going to the heights that they were, suddenly Gil Scott-Heron, who was never a part of the mainstream, is the mainstream. Does that worry you?
No. But it worries. Those words and that music, when they go together, that's a song. It's not a hip-hop or a rap. It's poetry.
Gil Scott-Heron saw that hip-hop would be a gateway to connect with a new generation of young people. And he also knew that music had the power to reach people in ways that other forms of communication could not.
And you wonder how people who grow up in the Bronx are ever going to see anything but the face of the tenement building ahead of them.
I was in the Bronx. The songs are the best breadcrumbs I could leave along the way, not for going back, but for people who want to follow.
With that knowledge, he offered game to the budding MCs in his poem-turned-song Message to the Messenger, released in 1994.
Older folks in our neighborhood got plenty of know-how. You got to remember that if it wasn't for them, you wouldn't be here now. We got respect for young rappers and the way they freewaying, but if you want to make a real impression, be sure you know what you're saying. Because if you want to be responsible for a whole generation and you know enough to take care of their education, be sure you understand about the past situations and aren't just repeating what you heard on the local TV station. But sometimes they take lies and put them in a truthful disguise. That's why we said it wasn't going to be televised.
3 days after Kendrick Lamar was announced as headliner of the Super Bowl halftime show, and on the same day that the MTV Video Music Awards aired, Kendrick released an untitled song that we call Watch the Party Die. And in that song, he gave his own kind of message to the messengers as an elder in the rap game. It was a song that talked about the state of hip-hop and called for a major change in how hip-hop music is created and promoted with a focus on the future of the youth. It was a rallying cry for the truth tellers and those who seek to edify, uplift, inform, and offer hope to emerge and reclaim the soul of the art form that we know as hip-hop.
If you parading gluttony without giving truth to the youth, the graveyard is company. Just tell us what casket to choose.
Yes, sir!
Locking into what I trust, looking outside, the kids live tomorrow, cause today the party just
In that song, Watch the Party Die speaks to the cultural divide that Kendrick Lamar was talking about at the Super Bowl halftime show.
Oh no! It's a cultural divide, I'ma get it on the floor. You really about to do it? 40 acres in the mule, this is bigger than the music.
It's about the lives and history of black folks in America, about the broken promises we've endured, about how everything meant to serve us and aid in our liberation has been taken away from us and labeled evil. It's recognition that resistance is needed. It's why he's calling for soldiers to assemble and watch the party die, and why he says it's not enough and TV off.
So where the soldiers at? The ones that lost it all and learned to learn from that. A thirst for life, head inside the book, cause he concerned with that. Few solid niggas left, but it's not enough. Few that'll reach that, but it's not enough.
GNX was a resistance project.
Someone better squabble.
So while many seem to be lamenting the new Drake project where he's trying on a different accent and making anti-intellectual commentary,
I want to meet your madre. My respects to your padre, mi amor.
I can't help but think about who tried to put us on game about what his rise to fame meant for the state of hip-hop culture.
This is great. This is a new Drake. You hear it? It's great. Okay. What happens when this thing collapses? What happens when the columns start buckling? Are we not in some early stage of that at this present hour? Buying and selling, where's the message that I can use? What's in it for your audience apart from being like banging the pom-poms?
For a long time, hip-hop culture has been accused of being altogether distasteful, disruptive, disgusting.
Too loud, too reckless, too ghetto.
News commentators have even said that hip-hop has done more harm to young African Americans than racism in recent years.
Hip-hop has done more damage to black and brown people than racism in the last 10 years.
All this is said, yet hip-hop is still distributed globally by America. It's one of America's biggest exports. We all had the same reaction when Serena Williams was dancing on that stage because a lot of us remember how she was torn apart by the media for doing this very dance at Wimbledon.
Yeah! No. They got Serena! No. No.
Barbie movie used hip-hop to market itself. Captain America Brave New World ended and a Kendrick Lamar song was playing at the end. Kirsten Bell walked out to Kendrick at the Screen Actors Guild Awards. The NBA, a league that once antagonized players for being too hip-hop. Players like Allen Iverson called too loud, too reckless, too ghetto, for wearing streetwear and making rap music, and were forced to tighten up by wearing suits to basketball games.
From NBA Commissioner David Stern, who said notwithstanding the music's wide popularity, Allen Iverson, by even recording his lyrics, has done a disservice to himself, the Sixers, his teammates, perhaps all NBA players.
That same NBA is now using hip-hop almost exclusively in its marketing.
I might swerve in that corner, whoa, whoa. Hold on tight, cause I speak in these beats, I let it go.
And that same hip-hop halftime show that so many called boring is still somehow the most watched Super Bowl halftime show of all time. But this is the great American game. It involves deception.
Even if I made it deceitful and I made you think that the answer is over here, but the answer is really over here, I'm still going to be looking over here. Me, the one that tricked, because I know this is the right answer.
Dr. Mark Lamont Hill talked about this, about how they deceive black folks. They demonize us, they attack us while at the same time using us, because they know that they have nothing without us.
America has understood what you're capable of, and they will make you think you ain't nothing at the same time that they exploit your gifts. They'll tell you you lazy and make you a slave. They'll tell you you dirty and have you clean their house. They'll tell you you uncivilized, and we raise their children.
And this reality is a direct reflection of the great American game when it comes to black music. It's a game they played well for every black music art form that came out of struggle and oppression and resistance to that oppression, including the blues, jazz music, country, rock and roll, and now hip-hop. The game is played in 3 stages. Stage 1, demonization. This is when the art form is attacked and criticized by the people who don't understand it at the beginning. They even have us black folks participating in that attack largely using religion. A great example is how so many black folks were attacking Tupac at the same time that Uncle Sam was, but for very different reasons.
Vice President Dan Quayle has renewed his attack on Hollywood. Now the target is rap lyrics, which Quayle charges have led to violence.
There is absolutely no reason for a record like this to be published by a responsible corporation.
Mr. Quayle wants the record taken off shelves.
He said, take my shit up off the shelf. Now, if that ain't hitting me, what is? I'm talking about the vice president of the country you live in. He know me. He want my shit up off the shelf. Not motherfucking Megadeth, not Killer Cop. They came after me, Young Pac. You know why? Because my shit is different than the next man. My shit talk about swinging back. They know the difference between mine and the next man.
Stage 2, white adaptation and commercialization. By the time they realize this music isn't a fad and isn't going away, they begin to participate in it. They begin to use it to sell their products, their sports leagues, etc. And this is part of the deception. They call hip-hop distasteful and ghetto, but they're using the ghetto to sell their products.
All the society is doing is leeching off the ghetto. They use the ghetto for their pain, for their sorrow, for their culture, for their music.
And stage 3 is institutional takeover and erasure. This is probably the most violent part of the American game when it comes to black music. They set up industries and take over industries and fill them with people who don't look like us to sell black music back to us. Because again, black people don't make the right kind of country or rock or blues music, so they have to take it over and purify it. It's, for example, why the response to Beyonce releasing a country album is a local newspaper putting out an op-ed about keeping country clean.
I forgot about that. Bro, you talking about? I never forget that, boy.
This is a game that has worked well in every black music art form, and it's a process that takes about 40 to 60 years. Hip-hop being just past its 50th year, this is around the time where they try to finalize the erasure of hip-hop culture. You hate me, don't you? You hate my people. Your plan is to terminate my culture. You're fucking evil.
I done been on the same record label for 13 years, so to say. That record label just folded all of its independent labels and subsidiaries into each other, which means how we was kids, you got Rockefeller, you got Def Jam, you got all these things, none of them exist no more. They fired all the heads of the labels, and if they didn't, they turned them into glorified A&Rs. They cut off 50% of the people who work in all these departments. Most of those people is us, people of color that come from hip-hop and R&B and these other things, right? Then you got record labels opening up IPOs. You got record labels destroying their relationships with TikTok, Spotify, things that pay out artists because they want to start their own. So then we getting priced out of our contracts. We getting priced out of our imprints. There are no labels basically that are incentivized to sign black music, and it's happening in front of our eyes.
The industry worked to effectively remove black consciousness from the mainstream. And one of the ways they did this is by separating so-called conscious hip-hop from mainstream hip-hop. And this is done despite the fact that hip-hop is born in, birthed from, consciousness and uplifting the struggles of black folks.
Hip-hop changing from positive to negative was not a consequence of history. It had nothing to do with the changing of the times. It had everything to do with the fact that there are people in this particular society who wants to see us exactly where we are. Fight the Power, X-Clan, Brand Nubian. You had these groups out here who were pushing, who were politically orienting black kids in the right direction. This is where we were. The most coveted article of clothing was a historically black college or university sweater. We were motivating children towards positive attitudes and lifestyles. Fast forward to our day. Sean Bell is shot 50 times in the street in New York by police officers. #1 song on the radio, Like a Lollipop. Nobody do nothing. Just like the brother, I believe it was JT, the bigger figure, who said that the label executives came to him and said, yo, brother, we need you talking about guns and whores. Right. Know what I mean? That's right. That happens. I've been in those meetings with management and had to ask me, is what you're saying really what you believe, so that we'll know how to market you properly. The environment that we're embedded in puts us in a situation where we feel we have to maneuver and play the game and water our message down. You know what I mean? But no, what happened was they intentionally shifted the paradigm to get us exactly where we are right now.
Colonialism has a tactic of taking
the criminal element of a society and exalting it as the leadership. And this is how all cultures, how they did us as they came in. Any city, any state is colonized. They don't take the king or the queen of the culture and exalt them because you colonizing their land, you taking what they got. They'll take the one who is the lowest level of your culture, disgruntled, can't follow principles, don't care about history, and bless them. And bring them up before the people.
So when we fast forward and see Drake in Compton with the Game and he's on 100 saying, I would have all of your fans if I didn't go pop and I stayed on some conscious shit, which many believe was a direct shot at Kendrick in his hometown, you see that cultural divide represented in plain sight. And knowing that backstory, when you hear Kendrick say in Euphoria, I make music that electrify him, you make music that pacify him, it reflects the sentiments that Tupac had very early on about art being made that pacifies the people. It's why those who love this culture, who come from it, can't go exclusively by record sales and billboards. It's what we mean when we say they want our rhythm but not our blues.
Selling records don't mean nothing. I'm down with him because he's a brother and he's making his mail. But, however, he's diluting rap. You know what I'm saying? He's playing that Sambo role, and the reason everybody's buying his record is because he's no threat, and everybody want to see Sambo dance.
Remember, you are silent in all black issues, Drake. You really are. You are really, really silent. I don't hear about anything. You don't stand for nothing. You don't say nothing about nothing. You don't. You have all the platform in the world.
There's a point in the performance where all the colors are on the field, and then we see people wearing all black, trapped in the game for the most part. And if you looked beyond what you saw, you would have seen a custom flag being flown for Sudan and historic Palestine. They, along with the Congo, are facing the world's most dire humanitarian crises. And this man sought to bring awareness to them. He appeared on the screen with the flag about 10 times, an act of solidarity that reflects the words of street poets like Black Thought, who said, it's a struggle worldwide, I'm positive. The ghetto might as well be the Gaza Strip. He's last seen on the screen when Kendrick was performing TV Off. And the timing is crazy because right after that, Kendrick says, they only good for saving face, I seen the cosmetics.
I'm prophetic, they talk about it, how I did it. Good for saving face, I seen the cosmetics. Cares, I gotta take to level my aesthetics, hurry up.
And we watching the cosmetics in 4K. The man who flew that flag said that he saw in Kendrick's performance a way to stand in solidarity with his other oppressed Muslim siblings. He saw it as a way to add to Kendrick Lamar's already important messaging. Is this the culture of degeneracy that's ruining the youth?
The situation in the Congo is dire. The situation in Sudan is gross. Normalizing this type of barbarity and making children subject to it.
Our Prophet Muhammad teaches us if you see a wrongdoing, or you're aware of a wrongdoing, you must stop it with your hands. And if you can't stop it with your hands, stop it with your tongue. Speak out against it. And if you can't stop it with your tongue, try to stop it with your heart, meaning pray about it. And we know that's the weakest of faith. It was clear to me with the signs of the show that Kendrick had the American flag and human bodies. He had his PG Lang flags. And it was also many signs for me to show those flags to show how we're all connected.
The oppressed around the world see hip-hop as a way to communicate to other oppressed people in their native languages. It's why, for example, hip-hop was used to raise awareness about apartheid South Africa. And that is the tradition that this music industry, that this society is actively misrepresenting and criminalizing.
Laughter and claps echoed through the air as women and children swayed and twirled to the beat.
I started listening to rap 4 years ago, and a few months after the war erupted, I started composing songs. Most of the songs I composed were for the place I love the most and where I grew up, which is Omdurman. The biggest wish I hope for is for the war to stop, for me to be able to complete my studies and become a skilled surgeon and a famous rapper. It is difficult, I know, but I think I'll be able to do both.
No, one people, one nation, together we can fight the wars in the world. Stop exploitation, cause every day my people die. No come, no phone.
Cause the same thing happened in 48. My grandparents got evicted and forced to move away to the refugee camp in Gaza. No, nothing has changed.
These young people aren't connecting to degeneracy. They're connecting to a people, to a struggle.
It's happened to everybody who's tried to live. You know, you go through your life for a long time, you think that no one has ever suffered the way I've suffered. You know, my God, my God. And then you realize, you read something, you hear something, and you realize that your suffering does not isolate you. That your suffering is your bridge. Mm-hmm. That many people have suffered before you. Many people are suffering around you. And always will. And all you can do is bring, hopefully, a little light into that suffering. So the person who is suffering can begin to comprehend his suffering and begin to live with it and begin to change it.
And this is the kind of information that gets suppressed once the art form that is considered a fad becomes an asset, an extractable resource. This is the great American game.
Are we under-resourced when we possess one of the greatest resources for economic progress in the world? $142 billion industry. We're not an under-resourced community. We're an over-extracted community. It's like the African proverb, everything the village needs is already in the village.
It's just like everything else. Africa was full of natural resources. What they do? All the diamonds, they came and got it. All the gold, they came and got it. All the niggas, they came and got it. You know what I mean? It's the continent is raped of all its resources.
Everything we have is already amongst us. We've just been blocked out of the lanes to exploit our own intellectual property, our own cultural resources.
I guess the word they call it is colonialism. You know, the same thing going on with rap music, the same thing going on with all of our culture. If a motherfucker see it as an asset or as a resource, we don't got no means to go get it. These got millions of dollars, institutions set up, like the LAPD, like the feds, like the FBI. All this is their army. And they army make it to where you can inflict your will. That's what we lack. You know what I mean? We don't have no army that's gonna come protect our natural resources.
So where the soldiers at? The ones that lost it all and learned to learn from that. A thirst for life, heading inside the book, cause he concerned with that.
Few solid niggas left, but it's not enough. Few that'll reach that, but it's not enough.
We survived outside, all from the music. What?
See you about your homeboys with the old culture cheat code. Scorekeeper, deduct one life.
On dedication, you know, Kendrick said that his man L said, do a song with Nip. He a better Crip, but Kendrick said he a man first.
Yeah.
You know, you hear what he speaks about from black businesses, the false imprisonments, and he said, listen close is bigger than deuces and four. So what is a better Crip? What does that mean?
I don't know, because I ain't said, but what I would assume Kendrick meant was that somebody that is not 100% biased or outside of communicating with a blood or somebody from the other side of the tracks. Maybe that's what he meant. That's what I took it as, you know?
Nipsey Hussle called himself the Tupac of his generation. He embraced the expected image of himself and those who looked like him, and used that as a bridge to connect to people that the society disposes of. He built bridges, bought back the block, established black businesses, established resources for black youth, all through hip-hop. And he did it strategically. He really was doing God's work.
That's one of the reasons I was so vocal about where I was coming from and what I represented, because I knew who I wanted to mobilize, you know what I mean? And I'm going to name my last album, The Spook That Sat By the Door.
I feel like I'm doing God's work. You know what I'm saying? Just because I don't have nothing to pass around for people to put money in the bucket don't mean I ain't doing God's work. I feel like I'm doing God's work.
I wanted my message to impact gang culture. You know what I'm saying? I wanted what I had to say to impact individuals like myself, young people that was in these areas that was controlled by gangbanging.
You know what I'm saying? Because these ghetto kids ain't God's children, and I don't see no missionaries coming through there. You know what I'm saying? So I'm doing God's work. While Reverend Jackson do his up in the middle class, and he go to the White House and have dinner and pray over the president, I'm up in the hood, you know what I'm saying, doing my work with my folks.
The kids are our only hope, and I got to them before they got jailed or killed or turned into Dawsons. And now they'll do anything to be free.
Winning awards and accolades is great, but it's not confirmation of success for me. You know what I'm saying? Going out here and looking at a kid that say, this song changed my life. I was going to do something to myself last night, you know, but I popped this tape in. That's confirmation. You know what I'm saying? So
if you parading gluttony without giving truth to the youth, the graveyard is company. Just tell us what casket the truth.
And what's interesting about that book, all his people used to call him Uncle Tom and a coon,
you know what I'm saying?
Sellout.
Yeah.
But he was there working for them the whole time.
Yeah, and just in terms of being able to mobilize his homies.
Everybody's saying because we choose to be organized now that we are emulating Italians. We got organization because we peak game.
Kendrick talked about it in dedication. We had a convo at the Pac premiere.
I'm at the premiere politicking with Top Nip and Snoop. Pac watching the way we groove. Dedication.
All of us represent our tribes, but we can coexist in the music space. And if that could happen in music.
And this is what the continuation of that work looks like.
Fuck that, this shit making me emotional, man. Fuck that, we've been fucked up since Nipsey died, hold up. We've been fucked up since Kobe died, hold up. Let the world see this. You ain't seen this many sections on one stage keeping it together and having peace, hold up. Unity from each side of motherfucking LA, Crips, Bloods, Power Rules, this shit is special, man. We put this together just for y'all. I'm talking about their rehearsals, showing love and respecting each other. And this is exactly how all our fallen soldiers want to see it.
Black unity, black community is the cheat code that this society punishes us for. Martin, Malcolm, Marcus, Nipsey, Pac. You try to muster, and the scorekeeper deducts lives.
Samuel Jackson, turn, scorekeeper, deduct one life, and that thing hit me hard because that is what happens. That is part of the game. You should know that. That's one of the reasons that it's sometimes scary to stand up. It's scary to be different because whenever you build community, they usually deduct one life. Deduct one life, and it's wild to hear Samuel Jackson deliver that line because Samuel Jackson was an usher at Martin Luther King's funeral, right?
So at the Super Bowl halftime show when Kendrick Lamar's rapping Man at the Garden with his homies behind him dressed in white, we can see why this is personal for him. You probably heard by now what those men likely represent. I mean, Kendrick tells us in Whacked Out Murals that he lost 16 people. Each person somebody's everything. Each person a universe. And many of the ones he didn't lose survived a fixed game designed to suffocate them because of the music. We survived outside all from the music. What? So it feels like his response to
last name ever, first name greatest
is
tell me why you think you deserve the greatest of all time, motherfucker.
This is personal because for those who come from struggle, this is life or death. Black art at its most authentic is deeply personal. My grandma used to say, what is joke to you is debt to me. It's why he demanded respect for the art form at the Grammys like he was getting ready to tear somebody up.
I just hope you respect the art form. That's all. Respect the art form. Get you where you need to go.
It's why he was going at not only just Drake, but the entire music industry during this back and forth.
Whoever that's fucking with them fucking niggas and fuck the industry too. If you take, I've been in this industry 12 years. I'ma tell y'all one little secret. There's some weird shit going on in some of these artists. Raphael like a give you art, but the industry's cooked as I pick the carcass apart. Yeah, Tony ass trying to see Compton. The industry can hate me. Come on, they mama. How many options you really?
The industry, man, it's not the same. Doesn't have to do with talent. It's about playing the game.
You probably noticed in the crowd that right when Kendrick Lamar is about to go into Euphoria, the sign on the stage says, warning, wrong way. The diss is him playing the game the wrong way. But it's like DMX said.
The industry like, wait! But in the streets, we like, get him. 17 up in that thing. Get him sleeping and hit him.
I hit you like I'm young. Get that like him, go to sell black one.
The age of truth is not 1 year. It's the beginning of people having more of a thirst for what is true than an appetite for lies. If you have truths to tell, people are hungry for that, and they'll pay you handsomely to hear the truth. That's the battle that's going on, is people who profit from the manipulation of others by getting you to believe something that's not the case. And that's how they make their living. And it is now a difficult time for those entities.
What happens when the game that you love, the game that saved your life, becomes tampered with? What happens when it becomes unrecognizable?
The game just saved my life, so it brought me and my family out of a lot of bullshit. So I'm just like grateful for it. Yeah.
Fire burning inside my eyes. This the music that saved my life. Y'all be calling it hip hop. I be calling it hypnotized.
What happens when the love, the passion, the energy that you pour into the game righteously is met with contempt? When those around you, even those who are supposedly on your team, don't seem to love the game as much as you do.
I pass the ball to Corey Blunt. Corey Blunt takes the shot from the corner, misses it. Nick goes down, lays it up, first team wins. I mean, I let Corey have it. And Corey's like, hey, man, it's just a game. I'm like, man, it's not a game. And I went back in the locker room, and I was like, I might be cut a little different. Maybe this is just a game, but I can't get over it. It's not. Right. Why can't I get over this thing? Like, they left, went home. I'm still thinking about it the next day.
Why don't you join the team, man?
Team? Man, I'm not playing any games.
Watch the Party Die was Kendrick Lamar's declaration that the game as we know it in hip-hop is over. It was a declaration that hip-hop is resisting the fate that our other black music traditions have suffered with the tools given to us, one of them being the rap battle. It was a declaration that what we built cannot be torn down if we're ready to reclaim what is rightfully ours.
I see a new earth filled with beautiful people making humanity work.
The world will change, because it has to change. The party is over.
TV Off and Squabble Up are resistance songs. Whacked Out Murals is a statement of intent. Songs to call up the leaders and the truth tellers in the moment that we find ourselves in. The game started to collapse when people began to see for themselves the brutal reality behind the constant distractions and misinformation. So I ask now, what are your passions? What is the thing that sustains you? And what like-minded individuals can you find alignment with in service of the greater good of the people?
It's a matter almost of a division of, how can I put it?
Division of labor.
Division of labor.
That's
Thank
all
you.
it is.
Yes.
Right. That's exactly what it is.
He can do some things that you can't do.
I know this.
Each one is called for what they are called for. But for people that are not called to actually having to fight in that way, then support the advancement of humanity.
I know I can't drive a truck.
Can you let me feel myself?
And I can't run a bank. I can't count.
Right on.
And I can't lead a movement. But I can fuck up your mind.
Right on.
During the Super Bowl halftime show, there was a lot of commentary made about Kendrick Lamar's chain, which was a double entendre, and his jeans. But what stood out to me as a writer is his jacket. I think his jacket itself is one of the more important elements of the performance and of the overall story that he was telling. He wore a Martine Rose jacket with his hometown on the back of it, as well as the name of his production company, PG Lang. And on the front of the jacket in bold red letters is the word Gloria, which is the name of the last song in his most recent project. I would describe the song Gloria as a love letter to the art of writing. Gloria is actually the name of his pen in this song. They can't erase our history. They margins ain't big enough. They all led by bigotry. My woman in my right hand, my saint in my sin. Ain't no bitch like my bitch, cause my bitch be my pen. The jacket felt like a reminder that writing got him here, and that feels so significant in this moment we find ourselves in. There was a time in this country where black people reading and writing was illegal, when black writers had to reassure their audience that they in fact wrote their own work.
That's why these writers kept writing written by himself, written by herself, Phyllis Wheatley, Frederick, because they thought Negroes couldn't read and write. They thought Negroes didn't have the capacity to read and write, and yet they made all the laws to stop us from learning how to do what? Read and write.
So if you know hip-hop, you understand why writing your own words and talking about your own lived experiences was so important, and why that was a major theme in the talk surrounding this moment in hip-hop history. It's because keeping it real, being honest, is a pillar in this culture. Telling the truth, because in doing so, not only do you set yourself free, but you help others get free as well. James Baldwin had this very conversation with a young Nikki Giovanni.
Why do we, as black writers, seem to be so hung up in the truth? If I can, I'm asking this as a younger person.
Because the responsibility of a writer is excavate, the only way I can find, again, the experience of the people who produce them, because the act of writing is the intention of it. The root of it is liberation. This is why no tyrant in history was able to read, but every single one of them burned the books.
We live in a nation of declining literacy rates. Our kids are struggling to read and write. The arts, music, and creativity are often considered a waste by the education system, and they're often the first to go with budget cuts. But so many black writers and poets have emerged through hip-hop. I am one of them. My name is Donnell Wrights for a reason. Every word that you hear me speak in this video, I wrote. And I learned the skill of writing for an audience first because of hip-hop.
I made a world of making differences. Lines reeling the fisherman. Eyes shifting the camel disguise. I'm a militiaman. Disguise so I'm reaching this high. My mission is again to see the dead and cut them revive to make them live again. Boycott the industry. They ain't taking my energy. Game changing my enemies. Can't hang and contend with me.
Rap has always been a scholastic pursuit for me. I learned how to rap in school. That's where I honed my skill sets. That's where I learned everything that I do now.
So it shouldn't be lost on us the importance of a black writer performing at the Super Bowl halftime show, while he's wearing clothing dedicated to his pen and to the craft of writing. And that's even if the wider public struggles with seeing the legitimacy of black writing, of black art, of hip-hop. Rap ain't nothing but rhythm and poetry.
Those words and that music, when they go together, that's a song. It's not a hip-hop or a rap. It's poetry.
No one yet believes, really, that there is such a thing as a black writer. A black writer is still a freak. You know,
maybe even
a dancing dog. We don't yet exist in the imagination of this century. And we cannot afford to play games. There's too much at stake.
My hope is that we can continue to lean into our passions in this moment and lean into our imaginations for the world that we have yet to see. Ta-Nehisi Coates talks about how the tradition of writing, of drawing out a common humanity, is indispensable to our future, if only because what must be cultivated and cared for must first be seen. He wrote this book, The Message, thinking of young writers whose task, he says, is nothing short of doing their part to save the world. Joel Leon encourages us in his book to write all the poems now and often. Break them open with your teeth, with a pen. Poetry will be our greatest soundtracks, our ears to the streets. He wrote these words in his book, Everything and Nothing at Once, which is, among other things, a love letter to hip-hop. Poems are slaying dragons, he says. They are saving us, even still. Our poetry will save the world. The only thing that serves us now is community, rooted in compassion, honesty, and vulnerability. Because while the art itself can be revolutionary, it was never meant to do the work.
Art can absolutely save your life. I believe it from the bottom of my heart. But believe me when I tell you that entertainment will never be your salvation. Entertainment, by and large, is escapism. And no one has ever escaped their chains by forgetting they were there. I think it was a phenomenal show, especially in a year and a time where there are people that would have Black history disappear. And so if you really want to see a different neighborhood, a different country, a different world, you probably gonna have to turn TV off.
Love and liberation to us all. And as always, like and follow for more content.
The message in hip-hop influenced the world.
Yep.
So this is the power of hip-hop.
Me and my microphone could be one until I see Big Pac, see pun, but this ain't easy. I can't take a big L, my city needs me. I gotta win, the proof is in the pudding.
You can look back and say that there are so many things that could motivate me and drive me to want more and to be the best. And you know, why do I just keep getting up and going and going and going? But I had a purpose before everybody had an opinion.
This shit ain't got nothing to do with no motherfucking song at this point. Ain't got nothing to do with no back and forth records. It got everything to do with this moment right here. That's what this is about. To bring all of us together, you know what I'm saying? That's what this is about.